Good morning, Trey.
Morning.
Never heard you so fired up. How you doing today, Dr. Trey? Good morning, Trey.
Great show, Trey.
Great show.
Live from the 92.5 Broadcast Center in the heart of Southwest
Now,
Florida.
I agree with you. Something has to be done.
Every day I listen to you every single morning.
Love your show.
This is Daybreak,
Thanks for your fight every single day on the radio. We're going to take this country back.
hosted by Trey Radel,
I don't know about you, but I've had enough.
featuring Robin Wolf in the 92.5 newsroom.
Fort Myers saw a 106% increase.
John Mounts in the producer's
That's pretty much everything you need to know.
and, of course, your call.
I just want to throw my 2 cents in.
And now, once again, here's your host, Trey Radel.
Occupy Fort Myers. Our phone number for anyone that went to the event or would like to talk about the event, supports the event or events across the country, give us a shout, 479-5592. I want to give you a voice, a platform here, other than just what I'm reading on some of these kind of random websites. That said, we do have one guest on with us, Drew from Naples. Drew, did you go to the Occupy Fort Myers event on Saturday?
Yeah, I sure did.
Tell me about it.
Well, also real quick, I want to mention you were wondering if some of the websites were correct. Just to mention briefly about Naples Daily News, what was it, something to the effect of protest against the wealthy? I didn't see that at all. It wasn't directed particularly against the wealthy per se. And I also saw in one of the Naples Daily News things they had reported that the next march was going to take place from Bank of America to the Federal Building, and they did preface it by saying logistics to be determined. However, by the end of the night, it was determined that was going to start from the park and go to Bank of America, and they didn't do their homework to get that, as other stations did at the same time. So sometimes, you don't get exactly the true deal from some of the headlines, but I understand how that kind of goes.
Okay, that said then, Drew, you were there till the end. Just, again, because I'm happy to draw attention to this, happy to even be a platform to hear people speak about this. The date right now is set October 15th. That's this Saturday at noon, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the point of this?
Well, we're still, be honest with you, in my mind anyway, and don't think that I'm speaking for the movement or something. I'm just a person like anyone else. In my mind, we're still trying to find that voice. I mean, remember that the politicians, that's technically their job to figure out how the society is run based on our vote that we, then we put our faith in them to go ahead and do their jobs while we do ours during the day. And after years and years and years, they have come up with no solutions. They still have a hard time getting anything together. And when they do, we've obviously seen we're now on the brink of global economic collapse, so apparently that job hasn't been too well done. And as you mentioned earlier, right now everybody's kind of awakening to this fact. Everybody's finding their own points and different points of interest where this may be true, that things are starting to fail on the system. So what I see we're all doing is trying to get some of those points together, define some what the problems are, and then through further education, maybe we'll be able to come up with a suggested solution or discussion point to find a solution. But, realize this has only been going on for a week or two at the most here in Fort Myers, so it may take just a little bit to everybody, come from around the area and really get their thoughts together on a cohesive scale.
So people are getting together to just say, hey, there are problems?
Well, yeah, I mean, like when you said, for instance, just wealthy individuals can contribute to federal campaigns. Technically true, however, corporations can produce their own ads that's endorsing a candidate, and that's unlimited money there. So what's the real difference between a corporation producing an ad or a corporation giving money to a candidate to produce an ad?
What you're talking about is the difference between a candidate's commercial, a 501c4, a political action committee, or as they are called in the state of Florida, a CCE, Committee for Continuous Existence, which are all various formats for people to advertise for or against a candidate. And there are all sorts of dumb little rules about that in terms of what you can or cannot say. And as a matter of fact, there are rules that say you can't say, yes, vote for this person, do not vote for this person, but you can go on the air and say, this guy hates puppies, this guy doesn't. Vote for the guy who doesn't hate puppies. Anyway, all right. Go ahead.
That's exactly the kind of stuff. That's exactly the kind of stuff. We're realizing there are all kinds of dumb little rules. A lot of what I see too is, kind of stuff about the concept of our money, really, with the Federal Reserve, fractional reserve banking, the fact that perhaps, forget about Social Security being a Ponzi scheme. What if the way our money is being created is a Ponzi scheme? This was not called for in the Constitution. Many of our forefathers have, fought against it. The last time we were truly out of all debt and any deficit whatsoever was with Andrew Jackson getting rid of some of the central banks. So these are issues that we haven't really been thinking about a lot in the forefront, but is affecting us. And
Drew, everything that you've said so far, by the way, strikes me as a libertarian-leaning conservative. How do you categorize yourself?
I don't categorize myself because I think a lot from both parties are very logical. A lot from both parties are very impractical and working counterproductive. So that's another thing that was addressed specifically at the rally was that this, and it's a lot of rhetoric, it sounds like, but it's not really about political parties. And I myself try to do my very best not to do that. When we have just a Republican and a Democrat, the only person that's allowed to come up and run for office. And not that I'm a big, super huge Ralph Nader supporter, but it made a little bit of sense when you mentioned the other day that essentially we live in a dual dictatorship. We don't get Coke and Pepsi with the media and with the politicians, and that's something that we're trying to break through as well. It's not about conservative. I'm not a libertarian leaning conservative or leaning liberal. Let's erase some of these labels and really think about what works and what's not working.
Look, I get that. I understand that in theory, but there's the practical aspects of this that we do have a two-party system, and for as much as it is disgusted or people are sick of it, the great part of it is that it works. Myself, having lived abroad, when you get into a country like Italy, where you've got 7 different political parties which dominate the system, guess what? The country becomes stagnant. It goes nowhere. It brings down the European Union, and now they're wondering why we even support this country or bankroll this country.
Has in our country as well, the two-party political system, become stagnant and starting to crumble to a certain extent?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with this apocalyptic crap that we hear from either Glenn Beck or from these people from Occupy Fort Myers. This is a great country. We have the most thriving middle class on the planet. We have the best, biggest, most successful middle class on the planet, and I'm sick and tired of hearing our country is garbage. The United States of America is a beacon of hope for the rest of the world. China can kiss it. And all of these other countries where we're doling out jobs, it's a matter of making our own country more competitive when we're going to go and contend with 1 billion people who work for a penny an hour. Let them have their revolutions because they've got people starving to death every day. And what I see in Occupy Wall Street are a bunch of people who are not like you, Drew. You give me hope. I like some of the stuff that you're talking about, even though you threw in Ralph Nader. But what I'm sick and tired of is this apocalyptic vision that the whole world is going to end, and it starts here in Washington, D.C. I don't buy it. I'm a little emotional at 6:24 in the morning. Let me back up, brother.
No, neither do I. Neither do I, brother. I'm not saying the whole world's coming to an end. I certainly hope it's not. That's not what I said. And I agree that I said it's crumbling to a certain extent. You said we shouldn't be doling out money to all of these other places. I agree with you. I would be willing to bet that most of the people on Occupy Wall Street and all that agree with you. We shouldn't be doling out all this money. I'm not saying that our country is. I'm not disparaging the nation at all. Please do not get that wrong. A lot of these people are very patriotic, but and I'm not quoting it as a revolution either, but don't say leave the revolutions to the other places. The revolutions have what helped with our country.
Okay,
as well.
let's define the word revolution, and this is what again starts to get under my skin. The definition of revolution, which I pulled up here to be able to interview this clown that never showed up from Occupy Fort Myers. It's a forcible throw of government or social order for a new system. What new system do we need? My answer is we've got a system in place. It's been corrupted by, yes, in effect, some Democrats and Republicans, but not corrupt where we need a forcible overthrow. Let's take a look at the definition of revolution where I think most of these Occupy people are coming from, which is the definition from Marxism, which is the, quote, class struggle expected to lead to political change and the triumph of communism. Is that the kind of revolution that you want? I don't think so, Drew. I think you're a lot more like me.
I do not want a revolution like that. Another thing that was specifically stated at all times, this must be peaceful. We just want a dialogue. We want people to think outside of the box. This must be peaceful. I heard not one person even, and when I actually made a motion, I just want to make sure people get carried away. This is to remain peaceful at all attempts. Everybody cheered. louder than perhaps the entire night. So I don't think that's what most people are thinking of. And I did say I don't quote this as a revolution, but just to bring up your point. And
Drew, I got to put you on hold. As capitalists, we've got a break to take. We'll be right back. This is 92.5 Fox News.
92.5. This is Daybreak.
Trey Radel, your host of Daybreak here. A little fired up this morning. We're talking about the Occupy Fort Myers event coming up. Some calls on hold. We'll get to you. 479-5592. If you are involved with the Occupy Fort Myers movement, please give us a shout, because our guest with Occupy Fort Myers is a no-show. Not answering his phone. We've left multiple messages. He bailed out. Is that a shocker? Shocker! 479-5592 is the phone number. 479-5592. That news, weather, and traffic right here on FM 92.5.
Make 'em ring, Southwest Florida. Call us at 479-5592. That's 479-5592. Now, back to Daybreak and your host, Trey Radel.
A little GNR to start the morning. Good to be with you. This is FM 92.5. A shorter segment here. Drew from Naples, you've been very kind to call in and share a little bit about your experience at the Occupy movement, and I appreciate it. I did want to go ahead and let you have the last word here. What happens from here, man?
Well, more than what happens from here, I think you're going to have to just kind of watch and see and hope for the best for everybody. But if I want to kind of wrap up like this,
sure.
You had some other callers get on it, is I think the socioeconomic standards that we're all starting to endure is very indicative of the reaction that happens. Like what you just, and I'm not slacking you, don't get me wrong, Brother Bet, you just kind of you mentioned becoming very passionate about the subject, got a little bit loud and said, I apologize, I just had to let off a little steam. That's perfectly understandable. These conditions will tend you to have to, want to blow off a little bit of steam. That was based on me saying, although I don't agree with Ralph Nader with everything, he was right on this point, and that struck up your passions. Just like the man in the Tommy Bahama T-shirt that looked wild in the picture, he was blowing off a little steam just like Trey Radel did. And this is what, and that's perfect.
Drew, does it strike you that dude's...
Coming back to your point of our nation being a great nation, that's why I believe it's great, because we have the common sense to get together, blow off a little bit of steam, and try to find some kind of a common ground before we end up like Egypt and something bad happens.
Yeah, but okay. But while, again, we've had no clear kind of summary of what this is about, we hear things like, oh, well, this mirrors the Arab uprisings, which there, in my mind, is absolutely no comparison. I think it's utterly ridiculous to bring in the Arab uprisings the spring. But we do see a goal like organize, disrupt, and occupy. On the Occupy Fort Myers page, that's exactly what the goal is stated: organize, disrupt, and occupy. Do you see why people look at that and they're like, is this really about venting anger and talking about common ground?
Well, yes, I can, and it is venting anger. That's the first step that needs to happen. And although that may be, I'm not familiar with that particular description on the page, and it may be, if you read further, there's lots of other calmer statements. And the only thing that's really, maybe... sorry, I lost the words early in the morning here, but the word disrupt may cause conflict. It depends how you define disrupt. If we want to disrupt slightly just the thought process of a dysfunctional system, that may not be bad. I don't look at it as nobody wants to do damage in any way, shape, or form. We're all trying to find a form of conversation to prevent that exact type of thing from occurring. So,
and dude, was that really a Tommy Bahama shirt?
I don't know. I don't know, but he was a very impassioned individual who was very flamboyant, and, he had his voice heard, and primarily he was just talking about frustrations of jobs. And is that, I think that's a common thing for people to be concerned about.
I agree 100%. Hey, Drew, man, it's a shame our Occupy guest just is a total no-show this morning, but I appreciate you calling in, man.
One thing on that, on all our sides, brother, to keep the flames down, like he didn't make it in. We are a news channel. How about our representative didn't make it in today? We'll take some calls and see what's going on. The little break was, again, he bailed on us, and shocker, it sounded like a New Jersey Shore, trailer or something. Let's just, let's try not to mock, and let's try to understand, I mean, I do my best to do that, and I know you do too. But,
But Drew, though, I'll tell you what, I'll take that up next point. That goes to this... conversation of like, let's just tolerate everything and let's not That would then go against the grain of what you're talking about being angry and how little anger can be healthy here and there, a little passion. I appreciate it, Drew. Have a good one. This is 92.5, 479-5592. Your calls this next segment. We'll be back.